Hey, Shalom, Grand Rising, Osio, Halito. Welcome to the video. Welcome to the channel. I am your brother Danyala, aka the Copper Color Aboriginal. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to the Most High. I also want to give recognition to Yahweh Shai. Many salutes, much love, much ahab to you brothers and sisters who are keeping the will of our God to the best of your abilities. With that being said, welcome to the video. So, yeah, this is the first video that you're gonna see of me in my house. I made a video probably about almost 3 months ago saying that I was going to start making videos from inside of my man cave, my personal studio, right? And when I said that, literally a week later, chaos erupted in my life. My computer went down, had issues with the job. A lot set me back from being able to make those videos, but now I'm starting to get everything set up on my computer the way I want after like trying over and over again and failing to install my Windows. My Windows was corrupting. I had so many issues that stopped me from making these videos. Now, right now I am sick. I have a cold. I have a head cold, and of course my voice is super nasally right now. So I do warn you, I will slur my words. I may have to pause for a little bit. I may have to, pause the video, blow my nose, whatever, clear my sinuses, because the more I talk, the worse it kind of gets. So I do want to warn you guys ahead of time, okay? However, we are here today, and I'm glad that you guys are joining me. Not all my videos are going to be here. Some of my some of my videos will be me inside of my truck. Just essentially just talking about subjects that are on my mind that day. I will try to do more videos from the house. Of course, I want to do videos in the truck because there's usually topics I talk about that are, right on top of my mind, and I may not have time to get home to make these videos. So I would say probably don't expect me to make videos from the house that often. You'll probably get more videos from me in the truck. Now, I know the sound sucks. Video quality is bad because I'm inside the truck. Yes, that sucks. I know. My phone holder can't stop moving to save his life. Like, it just shakes 24/7, and it makes the screen look fuzzy. So there's that. But anyways, we'll try to make more videos from the house for you guys. But today we are here to talk about something, pertaining to us, and how we have a lot of people online who are pushing back to us remembering who we are as a people, right? I don't really like to get into debates. However, sometimes I be on that time, right? I'm just like, hold up, I can't let these motherfuckers get away with this, because I'm not doing my people a justice, and I'm not doing my ancestors justice by sitting here and allowing people to spread lies and rhetoric, right? The people who I'm talking about in general are people who like to call us Afrocentrics, right? Honestly and truly, those people are the Afrocentrics. And I will explain why later on, right? Because I had this debate with this guy probably about like a week or two ago. And if I remember, I'll touch on it, why I call them Afrocentrics, right? But it's not this guy who I'm going to show you. I had this response to, what was it, yesterday and earlier today, right? So essentially, the reason I'm making this video is to show you guys how to combat these type of people, right? Because if you're a part of any American Indian, Aboriginal, whatever, Black Indian, Black Natives, even though I don't agree with those terms, if you're a part of any of those communities, I'm sure that you have come across people like this often. and you have to learn how to make them come correct, right? But first of all, you have to come correct, right? So essentially, I'm just showing you guys how I combat these people. Now, I'm not going to show you guys all my weapons just because in this particular conversation, I didn't lay out all the weapons, but I kind of hit them with the heavy ones, right? And these receipts are hard to refute, right? So anyways, without further ado, let's get over here to this conversation. So let me switch screens real quick. So as you guys can see right here is the conversation, right? So as you can see, this is a page on Facebook that I did not follow. And I noticed this on Facebook that a lot of these pages will keep showing up on your timeline and you may have never even seen the page before, which tells me that Facebook is definitely paying attention to what you're saying, what you're typing, and the content that you're looking at. Because I get like this final battle, like is the final battle, America is a Negro continent. Never followed them, but now I am. I'm following them now because of all the chaos that goes on within that page. It's not a Facebook group, it's a page. And it could be a group, I'm not sure. Now I'm thinking about it, is it a group? Because I noticed that different individuals will post pictures, videos, and stuff on this page. Now, this person, Rodney Smith, I don't know who the hell they are. You got to be careful with some of these pages because what I realize is a lot of these pages can be troll pages. You will have people who will classify themselves as Native American, who look like a Caucasian / Asiatic mixture, right? Or they will look like your stereotypical Hispanic, or they may even identify as Hispanic or Latino, right? You will even have people who are Caucasian who will pose as so-called Black Americans. And they do it for various reasons. Their main reason is to make it seem like there are people who are from your community who totally disagree with the notion that Black people are American Indians, right? They will make it seem like there are Black people on their side, and sure, there are, but those are usually the ignorant one. Usually when so-called Black Americans find out who they are, and then they remember what their elders said, like their grandmothers, their mothers, their aunties, uncles, grandfathers, they start to be like, okay, wait, maybe there's something there. And then they go and check it out. And then usually they find out that there is something there, and then they no longer deny it. This is why so many so-called Black Americans, and even just American Negroes, whether they're from the islands or wherever, whatever part of America, they now are starting to wake up in droves. Like there are, I will probably say, hundreds of thousands of Black Americans and even non-Black Americans, so-called Blacks from the British Isles, other parts of Europe. You have East Asian people, even Hispanic people, European or people of Caucasian descent who are waking up to who we truly are, right? And that's a beautiful thing. I don't believe in being enemies with those people because those people help prop up our truth. And they also realize that our history that is hidden is a detriment to them also. And they realize that they have also been lied to about their history, right? Because we're not the only ones whose history is covered up. Theirs is too. Their history is covered up also. And a lot of them are just seeking the truth, whether it benefits them or not, you know? And that's a beautiful thing. But then again, like I said, you have people out here who are trolls, and they're simply here just to troll, or they are just completely delusional and they don't want to accept the fact that they've been lied to and that their people have been lied to and that they have been attributed false history and culture, right? And like I said, I apologize for that. Me coughing, clearing my throat, all that stuff. I am sick, so please forgive me for that. So yeah. So this guy, I don't know, he could very well be a troll. There's a lot of folks here who come with, you know, these fake usernames, these fake accounts, and you go and you dig into their accounts and they probably only got like 1 or 2 pictures, or they have random pictures. They don't have any family members. That's usually a dead giveaway. Or their account is very young. It's like, come on, it's so obvious, right? But anyways, this is what this dude posted. He said, so-called black Indians are stupid. Laugh my ass off, right? So then, you know, he shows this picture right here where it says Aboriginal American, oldest fossils dated 60,000 years, right? So they show this guy, right? This melanated guy, right? And then it shows Siberian native, migrated to the Americas 12,000 years ago, okay? So he's trying to say, okay, and then right here it says American, Native Americans and their offspring. So essentially what he's trying to say is that, yes, there were Negroid folks here originally. The original folks were Negroid, right? And you would even see so-called Native Americans and even Hispanics admit this. But what they say, usually their excuse is, okay, well, those people died out, or those people mixed in to the people who came over on the Bering Straits and it created my ancestors, right? That's what they would say, right? And honestly, there's some truth to that, but by and large, it's cap. It's complete cap. And the reason why I say that is because most people who identify as Native American and or Hispanic, a lot of their ancestry don't come from over here. I'm not saying that there aren't any that don't have true American Indian ancestry. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that by and large, a lot of them don't have it, right? And the reason why I say that is based off of several books, right? One of them, well, actually there's a few of them that talks about the slave trade, right? And I'm not talking about transatlantic slave trade. I'm talking about the trans-Pacific slave trade, where they brought hundreds of thousands of Asians over here to the Americas, right? The reason why I said that this is partially true is because there were, I want to say a few times, but I guess I'll say a handful of times where Asians have come over here themselves, right? They weren't brought over as slaves, but this was very far and few in between, right? Or very few and far in between is what I meant to say. For example, there's this book called Fusheng. I believe that's what it's called. And it talks about a historical event where Buddhist monks, they set sail and they went east of them and they happened to land on the west coast of the Americas. This allegedly happened around 500 AD, right? It was about 1,000 missionaries who came over here, Chinese missionaries who came over here, and they never went back over to China, right? There's evidence of this because out in Arizona, there are several stone/artifacts that has ancient Chinese writing on it, right? Also, I believe it was somewhere in Tennessee. I had made a video about this a few years back where they found a sword that was closely, like the design was damn near identical to a Chinese scimitar. I believe that's how it's pronounced, but it's a type of Chinese sword. It's one of those swords that bend, right? And they found this in like, I think either Tennessee or Georgia. I can't remember, but they found it in like a riverbed. And if I remember correctly, it had like Chinese inscriptions on it. So, and the sword was like, you know, they say that the sword is a few thousand years old and that it had been there in that riverbed for several hundred years before they even brought Chinese immigrants over here in the 1800s, right? So I do believe that Asians made it over here before the Manila slave trade, but also in the 1300s, or actually the 1200s, in the 13th century, there was, there's a few documents out there that talk about how the Mongols made it over here. I've spoke about this several times in my videos before. Essentially, Kublai Khan, I believe either his grandson was trying to sail to Japan, right? They were trying to conquer Japan at that time. And there was a terrible storm that happened that pushed, you know, a lot of their ships off course, and allegedly they ended up over here in the Americas. They ended up on the west coast of Americas, places like California, Mexico, and even Peru. And of course, when they showed up, since they were a group of warriors, they showed up and started terrorizing the shit out of the indigenous people there. And the people who landed down in what we call Peru today, those people, those Mongolians, warred with the people there. They brought elephants, even though allegedly we already had elephants here. There's a lot of evidence showing that we already had elephants here, but I guess they brought their own elephants too. And they terrorized the shit out of the people, the indigenous people down there, and essentially took over their civilization that they had already had built there. And the guy who was Kublai Khan's grandson lifted himself up as a god and claimed to be their leader. And that's where Manco Capac came from, allegedly, right? So I do believe that Asians came over here. I do believe that they came over on the Bering Straits, but there was a report that came out like a year ago to show that the arrivals, the people that came over on the Bering Straits were relatively new arrivals, right? That they haven't been doing it for thousands of years like we've been told. So, you know, there's stuff out there, right? So I say all that to say this is that the original inhabitants that were here, by and large, were Negroid people. Now, what I'm not saying is that the people that were here were not mixed to some extent. My personal opinion is that by the time the Europeans arrived over here, the Asiatic people had already mixed themselves into the majority, right? This is why I believe that so-called Negroes, American Negroes, especially when we're young, and then also when we get older, we have what would be considered Asiatic features, right? So both of my kids, when they were born, when they're very young, especially my daughter right now, when they were young, they had very Asiatic eyes, right? And I've seen that a lot with Black children. There was this little boy that my son was playing with at McDonald's, I want to say about 2 weeks ago. They were at the playhouse playing with each other. This kid had no double eyelids. Like his eyes looked like they belonged to an East Asian man. And if you live in the Black community, you've seen this a lot, right? When I was younger, my mom was married to my younger sister's father, and his son had Chinese eyes. Like, we used to call him Chinese because he looked like a Chinese kid. Literally looked like a Chinese kid. My older brother, when he was younger, he had very Chinese looking eyes, right? So I do believe that us so-called American Negroes, who are in fact the real American Indians, I believe that those Asians who came over here I'm talking about like several hundred years ago, that they had already blended into the people. And by the time the Europeans came here, there probably weren't too many people who looked Asiatic, right? And the reason why I say that is because when you look at the early depictions of American Indians, they don't look Asiatic at all. When you look at the paintings representing America, when you look at the statues representing America, the people don't look Asiatic, right? Not at all. So this whole thing right here, you know, them depicting, I don't know how this looks on the screen. Let me see how this looks on this screen real quick. I can't really see it like that. Let me see if I can adjust this for you guys. Let me try to. I don't know how that looks for y'all. You know, yeah, okay. Y'all can see that. I'm trying to adjust this while I'm on here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Man, I don't know if I can zoom in. I'm not the best with okay, there we go. That's how we rock it for the moment, okay? So these people, as you can see, they look like the stereotypical Native American, right? Mongoloid looking, okay? These type of people did not exist, right? That's a recent invention. Sorry, let me zoom back. Let me fix this first. Okay, so I'm back. Yeah. So like I was saying, the stereotypical Native American, that's a recent invention. The reason why I say that is because there's a lot of documentation out there showing that majority of the Asiatic people who claim to be Native American, there's a lot of documentation showing that they are really nothing more than a mixture of Caucasians and then even the Asian people who were brought over here during the Manila slave trade. You know, maybe because it's gonna take time for me to find these documents to get them together. But at some point, I'm gonna show you this. There's several channels out there already. Check out Mike TV. Shout out to that brother. Check out Sosaliha. Another brother's name. Can't remember his name, man. It's been a while since I've seen his videos. Can't remember his brother's name. But there's several channels out there where brothers show the documentation about how the Portuguese and the Spanish were bringing Asians from Asia over here to the Americas, right? They were bringing over the Filipinos, and when they were bringing them over to Mexico and places on the West Coast, they were literally reclassifying these people as Indian. They were literally reclassifying these people as Indian. Same thing with the Chinese during the 1800s. When America had conquered the West and they start bringing over the Chinese to allegedly build the railroads, they were reclassifying those people as Indian, as Native American. They were placing them in tribes that already existed, and then they were even making up tribes for these people and giving it to them, right? So that is absolutely crazy. But like I said, you know, the original people are so-called American Negroes. Now, of course, like I said, you know, some of us aren't 100% Indian. Some of us have European in us. Some of us, I think a lot of us actually have East Asian in us, right? Which explains some of the features that we have. Sorry about that. So let me actually get into this dialogue that I had, right? So I saw this guy right here. Okay, so as you see this guy right here, his name is Rudy Barrela. I'm just gonna say Barrela. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the Spanish R, even though I can do it. I'm just lazy right now, right? So this is the picture that he posted right here, right? Let me see how well you guys can see this. Okay, y'all can't really see it too well. You know what? Give me a second. Okay, so I came up with a solution. So as we see, this is what he posted, right? And I see a lot of so-called Hispanic and Native American, even so-called white guys post this. And I've even seen people posing as black folks, posting this crap, right? Now, my thing is this, and I responded to the dude, and you know, I'm gonna read you guys the post. I'm gonna read it to you guys so you can actually see real quick. I'm gonna do this. I guess I'll just, okay, yeah, there we go. Sorry, y'all, I gotta do like a little switcheroo type of deal so I can go back and forth. So here we go. So let's go to his, okay, so yeah, we're in the replies, right? So anyways, this is what the sister posted right here, right? So the same Olmec head, this is the same Olmec head just from the front view, right? And oh God, hold up. I gotta switch. I gotta keep switching, y'all, because that's the only way it will. Oops, wait, what I just did. I don't even know what I just did. Okay. Okay, so here we go. There we go. Perfect. So as we see right here, okay, this is the view of the guy, the Olmec head from the front, right? Now, of course, all the facial features aren't going to be exactly the same because, of course, they're not the same people, right? Then meaning they're not the same person. However, we seen what dude posted. He posted a picture of a Hispanic guy from the side and the Olmec statue from the side, right? I'm gonna go to that picture real quick. Let's try to, if this wants to work, take it 5 years. Okay, there we go. So as we see, he posted this dude from the side. Now, in my honest opinion, I don't think they look the same. Like, honestly, I do not think they look the same. Like, if you zoom in, especially to this guy right here. Now they showed this dude right here. These are two different statues right here. This one and this one, two different statues. I don't think they look the same. Like, they don't have the same lips. They don't have the same nose. You know, you see a little bridge right here. This guy has a little bit more bridge than this dude. You know, a side profile really doesn't do a whole lot of justice. It really doesn't. Because there's a lot of races or people who can look the same from the side. It's really about the front, right? In the front, you get more detail. So that's why, let me zoom back out. And then, of course, you know, she posted, or this guy, he posted, this Rudy dude, posted this African right here as if that is comparable. And you know, it was so funny because, let me go back to this. Let me zoom this out. Okay, let me go over to this picture. Sorry, X that out real quick. So anyways, when you go to the front, right, of the statue that they're comparing the Hispanic dude to, look nothing like the damn statue at all. But when you look at this brother right here, this brother looks like almost identical to the guy. So it's like, you can't sit there and just do like compare and contrast, because like I responded to the dude, I'm going to read you guys the response that I made to the guy, right? Well, I'm going to show you guys the response that I said to this guy. Oh, sorry. So this is the response I said to the dude right here. So I responded to the guy and I said, Rudy Barrera, whatever the hell his name is. First of all, you chose an African in your example. Excuse me. You chose an African in your example. Secondly, the Asiatic Hispanic dude you're comparing to the Olmec head looks nothing like the Olmec. Facial structure and lips. Third, I bet you think that you're indigenous, yet you don't have the facial structure of neither the Hispanic example, talking about this guy right here, nor the Olmec head. All right. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna read that again. Oh yeah. Third. Oh wait, no. Second. Wait, where was I at? Olmec head looks nothing like the Olmec facial structure. Third, I bet you that you think that you're indigenous, yet you don't have the facial structure of neither the Hispanic example nor the Olmec head. And that's why I think it's so funny, because people, they will sit here and if you show them, say like the Bonampak murals, right? Where it's the murals that were created by the Mayans themselves, depicting themselves. They will point out like, oh, those Mayans have hooked noses. And I'm like, yeah, some of them do, but some of them don't. And people like to say, like, these little trolls like to say like, well, black people don't have hooked noses. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I may not have a hooked nose, but my dad does. My wife doesn't have a hooked nose, but her dad does, right? Her dad in the military, they called him Indian, and they said that he had an Indian nose, right? And by the way, my wife's father is Choctaw. Everybody don't share the same features and phenotypes, right? But when you put certain things together, piece by piece, it starts to paint out a big picture. You start to get a bigger picture of the puzzle once we start putting things in piece by piece, right? And that's what us so-called American Negroes have done to confirm our identity as American Indian, right? So we see the Olmec right here. We know that the Olmecs are also known as Paleo-Mayan, meaning that they were the ancestors to the Mayan, right? So if we're looking at this Olmec right here, we're looking at this statue, we know that the Mayans were melanated in skin tone and they had these features. They didn't look, you put those two together, you know that they did not look like the modern day Hispanic. Now, could this Hispanic guy right here that he used an example have some Mayan or Olmec ancestry? Sure, he sure could. And I accidentally knocked over. Whatever. He sure could have Mayan or what's called ancestry, but I just think it's so funny that this guy went out of his way to find a Hispanic guy that looks similar to the Olmec head, right? But then he went way out of his way to find an African guy that looks nothing like the Olmec head. I'm like, really, dude? And I called him out on it in my comment. I said, the point being is that you're terrible at comparing. Then you chose, sorry, let me see my screen. Let me see what, okay, sorry. Then you chose a black person who looked nothing like the Olmec head, while you tried your very best to find a Hispanic that looked similar and still failed. Hell, most Hispanics share no resemblance to the Olmec. And what I meant by that is that most Hispanics, most of your so-called mestizos, who they try to say are indigenous, or they try to say that is the indigenous look. The mestizo look is the indigenous look. Most of them don't even look like the Olmec head, right? So it's like, come on, miss me with that. You went way out your way to try to find the handful of Hispanics or a handful of mestizos that may look or may share some similar features to the Olmec head. But by and large, most so-called mestizos don't even look like the Olmec heads that they try to claim that they descend from, right? So I said, besides, not one person of the same ethnic/racial group share all the same features, Dodo. And I said fell, right? So then I went through, where's the rest of my, I made some other posts. Let me see if I can. Other people up here dropping some gems, you know, just shout out to the peoples. And then I think this right here is, this is definitely AI. I don't know why. This one of my pet peeves is that you definitely got to check your sources, right? I've seen those photos before. Damn, some Bridget going hard up in here. Shout out to the sis. But you really gotta do your research, because this is AI also right here. I could tell that's AI. And this is a Photoshop. Come on, people. Y'all have to do better. You have to do better. You have to do better. Hell, can I even find my, it may have been deleted now since I'm thinking about it. They may have went through and deleted my response, or it could be under here. Oh, okay. So this is also what I dropped right here. Okay. So I said, Rudy Barrera, how many Hispanics that are part black, sorry, I meant to say how many Hispanics that aren't black or part black share same features to the Olmec head? And the very melanated Mayans that wore braids like the Olmec and wore head wraps with curly hair. Like, seriously, how many Mayans, how many Hispanics do you know that aren't part black or black themselves that look similar to the Olmecs or the Mayans in the Bonaparte mural? Very little to none, right? And I said, most Central Americans today don't have that combination. If they were the people, how come Mexicans don't wear braids? And by and large, most of your mestizo Mexicans, they don't wear braids, right? But that was something that the Mayans wore, right? You can see it in their artwork. You can see it in their artifacts, their statues, their figurines, that they wore braids, right? Even the Olmec head, when you look at him, it looks like he's either wearing like, I don't know what you call, like a, kind of like, what would you call that? Because even some of the Hebrew Israelites wear those like things that go around their head, kind of like a headband type of deal. But it looks like in one of the statues that the Olmec head is wearing that. And when you look at the back, when you look at the top, you see braids. And when you look at the back, you see his braids come down, right? Because they wore braids. If the current people of Central America, I'm talking about the mestizos, if they really descended from the Mayans and the Olmecs, why do they no longer carry that tradition of wearing braids and head wraps, right? Where did I leave off at? Most Central Americans today don't have that combination. If they were the people, how come Mexicans don't wear braids? Not wear, sorry, with the typo. Mind you, I be typing this stuff quickly, and I'll be having a lot of typos. But anyways, I said the photo below was taken from the Bonaparte murals in Chiapas, Mexico. Remember, this mural was created by the Mayans, right? This particular photo is is part of a mural depicting a Mayan man wearing a headscarf like we do today, talking about us so-called American Negroes. Dark brown skin, so he's wearing a headscarf, dark brown skin, and nappy hair sticking out the back. We know who we are. Not only does historical documentation prove who we are, but so do so do the artifacts, our oral tradition, soul food, and our genealogy. And I say I will drop photos of the Olmec, aka Paleo Mayan artifacts, statues, figurine art, along with other examples of how American India was depicted during the colonial era. Right? Give me 1 second. I need to pause. Yeah. So that's what I said, right? So here is the photo that I dropped, right? Now, of course, let me see how it looks on y'all screen. You can see it pretty well. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. I may have to switch screens. Gee whiz. Yeah, it's not getting any bigger. Oh wait, that's the zoom button right there. There we go. Now let me, well, actually let me see. Nope, can't do that. Let me see how it looks in this other screen. Okay, so it looks better in this screen. Oh, there we go. There we go. Much better. So as you guys can see, this is a Mayan. Okay. This, now I have this book right here, right? This is an excellent book my father put me onto, right? Beautiful book. It is called Travels in the Interior of North America, right? A lot of you guys have seen these photos online. I honestly, I'm not boasting, but I was one of the first people online to show the images from this book, right? I made a video too long ago. Is he even on this channel? Probably. Yeah. Because Sister Warrior, shout out to her. She came in my comment section. She came correct. Because at one point in time, I didn't know that this was us, right? I thought that this was another group of people. But she corrected my ass and she got me right. So anyways, as you can see, melanated, right? Now, when I showed this book, there were people in the comment section saying like, oh, that's paint. They put paint on their skin. They put brown paint on their skin. Cap. Complete cap. The reason why is because there's a lot of documentation out there talking about their skin tone, right? Talking about their skin tone, them being brown, right? Like the documentation from, what is his name? Giuliano Verrazano, something like that. I can't remember the guy's name. But he was an Italian explorer who landed off the coast of North Carolina, and he came across I believe it was the Yuchi people. And he mentioned how they were dark skin color, right? That they had their hair tied in little tails like this in the back of their head. Shout out to the ancestors, right? Because my people are from the Carolinas and Virginia area on my mom's side, right? He described them as being brown skin, but when I showed this book many years ago, you had Native Americans and Hispanics saying, oh, those people, they were just wearing paint. And I'm like, dog, most of the artwork in this was taken during the fall and winter. You think they was out there painting themselves like that during the winter time? I mean, sure, but a whole fucking body paint, right? And then I had another guy who was like, oh yeah, man, that's just a tan. Really? This how desperate we are? We're saying that they're tanning? And then I was like, well, some of these pictures depict some of these figures in here with their chest open, right? And you can see no tan lines at all. No tan lines at all. And I can almost assure you that these people were not sitting out in the winter tanning. Like, kidding me? Like, you don't get this dark from a tan. Like, you can get relatively dark from a tint, but you don't get this dark. Especially during the winter time. They didn't have tanning booths, at least that I know of, back in the, what was this? This was in the 1800s, right? But anyways, I brought this book up to say, you know, there's some people in here that have hooked noses, right? And there's actually one guy who actually looks very similar to my dad. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But you will have people say, oh man, you know, Negroes don't have hooked noses. And I'm like, you know, I mentioned like what I mentioned earlier with my dad, my wife's dad. But then I bring up people like Lord Jamar. Look at him. He has hook nose, right? Look at Fredo Starr, hook nose. Hell, look at one of the best NBA players in the world, in my opinion, Scottie Pippen. Look at him. You know what I'm saying? There's so many examples, but the point that I'm trying to make is that not all Indians have hooked noses. Like, I know that's supposed to be the stereotype because that's the image they want to push to you. I'm trying to find a picture. Oh yeah. This one right here, right? I don't know how well you guys can see this. Hey, y'all need to cop this book for real, man. This thing, they can be expensive, but there's some websites out there where you can find this book relatively cheap. So I don't know how well you guys can see that. Sorry, glare. How well can y'all see that? May have to move this mic a little bit. Did y'all see that? That's not paint. And yeah, the brother does have a hook nose, right? But you know who he looks like? He looks just like my dad. This, I kid you not, he looks just like my dad. But as you can see, and I want to show you another picture. Look at that. Damn, can't see. I'm trying to move around to show you guys, but that's a Negro. That's a nigga right there, right? And I know some people are like, well, what about the hair? The hair is straight. Did you know that American Indians were known for straightening their hair? You didn't know that, did you? Also, they were known for scalping their enemies. And then even wearing their hair, straightening their hair and wearing them as extensions. Crazy, right? But y'all do know that that's like several thousand-year-old tradition. Y'all do know that, right? The Egyptians did that. And there were other ancient societies that wore artificial hair, wore other human hair, straightened their hair. And I believe that's why so-called American Negroes do that even to this very day, right? We made that a popular thing to wear extensions, wear artificial hair or other people's hair. I believe it came down through the ancestors, right? It was something that we practiced all the way back then. Let me see if I can find a bigger picture of this one guy, right? So here you go. These are 3 chiefs, right? Now this guy right here, look at that hair. That's curly hair. You know what that hair look like? It looks like hair that was curly and he tried to straighten, and now the relaxer is starting to fade out, right? Or the straightener is starting to unstraighten. I seen a lot of niggas with hair like that, right? So I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you just what I'm seeing and from just life experience, right? That's not paint. That's not tan, right? Those were American Indians I just showed you, just like what we're seeing right here. Now, the reason why I brought those guys up in particular, not just to show you that they were melanated, but my main point of showing you was that those brothers had hooked noses, right? Now, we've all seen families where they all have similar features. They may all have the same eyes, nose, whatever. But then sometimes certain features skip, you know, people. Like it may not, their child may not have the same nose, same lips, eyes, whatever. But what you have to understand is that a lot of these tribes back then, they were very close knit. They had certain bands, and they usually they may dabble with people and trade with people outside their clans and their nations, but they really stuck to themselves, right? So a lot of the features, they shared them amongst their people. And that particular group of people, they lived in what today would be called, I think those people lived out in the Missouri area, right? I think they were like Missouri Indians, right? So maybe in their clan, the hook nose was more prominent, right? Because we all seen families where they all share like the same features. So anyways, but even some of the Mayan, in the Bonaparte mural are depicted with hook noses, right? But then there are Mayans in the same murals that are depicted with what you would call a Negroid type nose. This brother right here is one of them, showing you that this ain't paint. As we see the other American Indians in that book that just showed you, that wasn't paint, right? You saw the brother with his bare chest, and that was painted during the wintertime by Carl Bodmer, right? Who was an artist who came over on the expedition with Prince Maximilian Wade III, right, of Germany. He was a German nobility, right? Nobleman. Part of the royal family over there, right? And you can read in his diary, the reason why he came over here was because he was afraid that the American Indian was going to be destroyed off the face of the earth. And he had heard that not only they were being killed off, but that they were being bred out of existence. He mentions it in that book that the American Indian, they were starting to lighten, their skin complexions were starting to lighten up, right? And things like that, right? And we read about that. We read about that in historical documents. And the ones, and you may hear my son in the background, but the ones who got to keep their American Indian identity, those were the ones that came from the children, the offsprings of those who were lightened up, right? And the darker ones who looked Negro or black, they were the ones who had their identities erased, right? Because during the 1700s, 1600s, 1700s, let me slow down. During the 1600s and the 1700s, the people who were documented as Negroes, those were American Indians. Those were just American Indians who lost their identity, right? Look at the example of Crispus Attucks, for example. He goes between being a Negro or Indian, Negro or Indian. But when you look at the documentation, he was an Indian. But the reason why they was called Negro was because he assimilated into American culture, right? He was the person who essentially, in an indirect way, sparked actually in a direct way, but his death in an indirect way sparked the Revolutionary War, right? Because he was protesting against the British and the bullshit that they were doing, and he was shot and killed in public for that, right? And that sparked the riots, the rebellion, and then the war, right? But he always gets flung back and forth as being a Negro or African. Same thing with Tituba, right? We know her from the Salem witch trials, right? She is documented as a Negro Indian, Negro Indian, Negro Indian. We don't know. We do know. She was an American Indian who was taken from her homeland, brought over here, and was labeled Negro. Why? Because she had assimilated to what was the newly emerging American culture, right? And that's, they did that to a lot of our people, right? The 20 and odd Negroes, or the 20 and odd Africans that came from 20 and odd Negroes, and then that changed from 20 and odd Negras. When you actually go and look at the documentation of the American Indians that were Well, the 29 Negroes that were brought over here, you go and look and see where they were taken from. They were taken from the Caribbean. And they were documented as American Indians, but then when they came over here on shore in Virginia, they were documented as Negroes. Why? Because people were covering up the paper trail. They were trying to cover up the identity of these people. Why? Because they had illegally obtained those people, right? They were ill-gotten gains, if you will. And essentially, if you look at the documentation, those 20 women, they belonged to a Caribbean tribe, a tribe of people who were pearl divers. And essentially the Spanish had these people diving for pearls because they were very good at it. Because the tribe valued pearls, right? They would just use them as ornaments and things like that. I don't think they use them for trade, but for ornaments. And the Spanish, when they saw these people doing it, it was like, oh, hell yeah, get more of those. Yeah, keep doing that. And they start slaving the hell out of these people, right? So the Spanish had 20 of these women on the boat. I don't know why they had them on the boat. I don't know what they was doing with these women. I don't know if they were going to trade them or breed them, whatever the hell they were doing. But they had these women on the boat. The English were very hostile towards the Spanish and even the Portuguese, and even the French too at some points. And when they wanted to get into the trade, they wanted to get into the Caribbean and do trade and take advantage of everything that was down in the Caribbean. However, the Spanish was not allowing that shit to happen. So what the English did with their smart asses is that they went and disguised themselves as the allies of the English and the Spanish. Who was that? The Dutch, right? So they went down to the Caribbean with a Dutch flag. And when they went down there, Spanish didn't pay them no mind. And when they got down there, they hijacked a Spanish ship that was holding 20 Caribbean Indian women, right? I believe these women were taken from a tribe off the coast of Venezuela, right? And you can go back and research everything I'm saying. Everything I'm saying, go back and Google this shit, right? Google it. There's documents out there. Shout out to Cremio. He shared this in his video probably about like 3-4 years ago, right? Shout out to him. And it was funny because I was actually the one who pointed it out in his video. He's like, yeah, you're right. Because I don't think at the moment he had put 2 and 2 together, right? But anyways, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so after they hijacked that ship, they brought it all the way back to Virginia. And when those women landed on shore, they weren't Indian anymore. Why? Because they were ill-gotten gains, right? They couldn't say that these women were Indian or they would more than likely get in trouble, because I don't think England has sanctioned that at all, right? And this is why, and then a lot of those women, I believe there's more than 20 of them, and I believe some of those women died on their way to Virginia. And then when the women got to Virginia, they weren't trying to acclimate at all. So then they end up taking those women back to the Caribbean, right? So yeah, like I said, when we're colonized and assimilated, we become Negroes. We lose our identity. Go and Google paper genocide. Go look it up. Go and look up paper genocide of the American Indian, and you will see we're not capping. See, these people, they like to say that, oh, you're Afrocentric, you're trying to steal other people's history. Then they'll show the Moors saying, we are the original inhabitants of Europe, right? And then they'll show the black guy dressed up the Egyptians saying, oh, we're the original Egyptians. Then they'll show the Hebrews like, we're the original Israelites, right? And then they'll show the black guy with a eagle bonnet on saying, oh yeah, we're the original Indians, right? The funny thing is that when you really are honest and you study history, you will see that yes, so-called melanated people were all of them. What people have to understand is that pale skin was a very rare thing before the 1800s. So much so that your boy Benny Franklin, aka Benjamin Franklin, he remarked about it, right? Some of us are very familiar with the quote, and I may even pull it up for you guys just to show you guys because it's something really easy to find. But he mentioned how there was very few pure white folks, and when you say pure, when he says pure white folks, I actually think that he's denoting skin tone. The reason why I say that is because later on in that quote, he starts naming off different regions of the world, and he talks about he mentions their skin color, right? So that's why I believe that when he says pure white, he's talking about skin tone, and he's not talking about a status, right? Because we know white can be a status. Anyways, oh shit. Lisa, hey, he makes some good music. I mean, this brother got beautiful voice. He's from South Africa, but beautiful voice. But yeah, we ain't watching that right now. Let me pause this real quick. Anyway, so I'm back. I forgot what I was saying. Damn, lost my train of thought that quick. But yeah, paper genocide is real. They stole our identity. And just because every Negro is not running around with a hook nose does not mean that we're not Indian, that we're not American Indian. Because as you see right here, this Mayan does not have a hook nose at all. Doesn't have a hook nose. He has what you would call maybe a stereotypical black person nose. I don't know. But the point that I was making in the response to dude is that your modern day Mexicans do not have this combination. What am I talking about? The skin tone, the head wrap, and as you can see in the back of his hair wrap, you see his bushy hair, right? You see so-called 4C hair, and that reminds me, right? Because I had gotten into a debate with this Hispanic dude probably about a week and a half ago. And he told me, he was like, 4C hair did not come into America until they brought over the African slaves. And I'm like, that's not true. Then I showed him this mural, this photo right here of the mural. And I'm like, look, here's a Mayan with heavily melanated brown skin, wearing a headscarf. Looked like he got a damn earpiece on, but it's more than likely earrings, right? And bushy 4C hair. So I'm like, you capping. You don't know what you're talking about, right? And then he responded saying, no, there were no Africans over here. The American Indians are not African. And I'm like, well, dog, I never mentioned the word African. That's you, right? And see, this is why I say that these people, these scoffers or trolls, whatever the hell they are, this is why I say that they are the true Afrocentrics. Why do I say that? Because every time when we have these discussions talking about who we truly are, and we show them photos of the murals, or we show them statues that were made in the 15, 16, 17, 1800s, they like to say, oh, you guys are trying to make American Indians or the Mayans or the Aztecs into Africans. And we're like, no, we're not. We never said that. But they're the ones that's always saying that, right? Just like I showed you the picture of the dude comparing a Hispanic dude to the Olmec head. But then he went and, when he wanted to find a heavily melanated person, he went and found an African. Like, no, we're telling you guys, we're not African. We know that we're not African, right? But every time when we're debating you guys, you always want to bring up Africa. Yet we're not saying, sure, there are a few uneducated or intentionally spreading misinformation people out there who will associate the Americas with Africa, right? You will have people like Tariq Nasheed out there who will say like, oh yeah, you know, the Africans came over thousands of years ago, Mansa Musa, yada, 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 kinship. So there's no evidence of that at all. There's no evidence of, what's his name, Abu Bakari, Mansa Musa's brother or whatever the hell who he is, sending ships over here. What there is evidence of is that story was hijacked from King Solomon's story, right? there's a lot of evidence showing that, right? That Abu Bakr was a hijack of King Solomon. Like that whole story was stolen for King Solomon. There's a lot of history like that where they actually take history from a certain people and then they attribute it to like the Romans. Like they steal a lot of they steal a lot of Israelite history and then they give it to the Romans, like the 300, the Spartans and all that shit. It's deep, y'all. There's videos out there on the internet showing this, from scholars showing this stuff. But that's how it is with the Abu Bakr guy, right? So you do have people out there who are melanated who will try to associate the Americas with Africa, right? But that's not what a lot of us today are saying. That's not what I said when I was in discussion with the dude, right? But he just kept saying that I'm trying to Africanize the Americas. I'm like, no, I've never even mentioned the word Africa. I was like, why is it when I point out a person who's melanated, you're always associated with Africa? I told him, everyone who has brown skin and even having 4C hair are not from Africa. So I pulled up pictures and I showed him a picture of a person who was heavily melanated. They had 4C hair. And I was like, where's this guy from? He said, Africa. I was like, wrong. Wrong. This guy that I showed him was from Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea. There are people over in Papua New Guinea. You throw them in the hood, you dress them like us, you never knew they were from Papua New Guinea. Where is Papua New Guinea? Papua New Guinea is in the Pacific Ocean. It's literally islands off the coast of Asia. Yet the people over there aren't from Africa and they are melanated. And according to the charlatans who do the whole DNA bullshit, right? Genetics, all that shit. I think all that is hocus pocus. They say that those people are closer related to East Asians than they are Africans, right? They don't even associate those people with Africa. Yet they look just like us, American Negroes, right? There's evidence to suggest that those people used to be here in the Americas and then they fled out further west into the Pacific. The Micronesians and the Polynesians, right? But that's another story for another time. But my point being is that not everybody who's heavily melanated and with 4C hair are from Africa. This is what it is, right? Hell, there's people from India, East India, that are heavily melanated. And some of them even have 4C hair, right? You have people in the Polynesian Islands who are heavily melanated, look like Negroes, right? 4C hair, but they're not African. And this is what I was telling this guy. And he's like, nah, man, nah. He could. And see, it's funny because when you get people to a certain point, they start trolling because they have no answers. They have no real answers. And that's all this guy was trying to do. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm not Afrocentric, but you are. The reason why you are is because I bet money. And people who have this ideology, y'all need to stop, especially if you are an American Negro. Stop having this ideology. But I told him, I was like, I bet money you think life started in Africa, don't you? He was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, by your logic, you're African. By your logic, everybody in the world is African. Because he was like, oh, yeah, you're African because your people came over on slave ships. I was like, first of all, that's bullshit history. But I was like, by your logic. And that's why I popped that question, right? I bet you believe that life started in Africa, right? So then that's why I hit him with, by your logic, everybody's African. Because according to the charlatans, right? Shout out to the brother UB. According to those people, life started in Africa. That's complete bullshit, but that's for another time, right? We can talk about that another time. Shout out to Kareemio. He has a lot of content on that. Go and check out his channel. But that's cap, right? Complete cap. That life started in Africa. But see, this is why I say that they're Afrocentrics, because if you believe that so-called American Negroes came from Africa, you more than likely believe in the cradle of civilization being in Africa, right? And like I said, If you believe that life started in Africa, by default, everybody comes from Africa. And that whole out of Africa theory is a very racist theory. The guy, I can't remember his name, the guy who came up with the whole out of Africa theory, he was heavily inspired by a white supremacist by the name of Charles Darwin. Don't believe me? Go look it up. This guy, Charles Darwin, believed that black people, so-called black people, were the closest things to apes. So if you are one of those people, one of my people who take pride in being African, always champion that Africa's the mother of civilization, you are literally subscribing to racist ideology. Ideology that says that you are the closest thing to a goddamn ape. That's why people gotta get educated, man. They really do. But yeah, like I said, you know, these people, they're truly the Afrocentrics. They're truly the Afrocentrics because whenever they see a melanated person, they think that, oh, that person comes from Africa. No. Looking at this mural right here, if you have that ideology, this guy must be African, according to the ideology. So you are the Afrocentric, right? Because you're saying anybody with brown skin. Now, I told this guy this. I was like, oh, well, I guess anybody with brown skin and 4C hair must be from Africa, right? Yeah. Okay, well, then I guess the Mayans must be African. So you're the Afrocentric. Nah, that's not what I'm saying. Then explain his brown skin and his melanated skin, his 4C hair. Explain that. Explain it. Explain why these people wore braids. You know why a large majority of these people have full lips, noses. Some of them have hook noses, but us American Negroes, we have all different types, all different phenotypes, right? Like I said, look at black folks. Like, not all of us have the same features. Some of us have big beaks for noses, you know? And another funny thing that I pointed out to this guy, and I do to other people too, is that not all of your so-called stereotypical Native Americans have hook noses. Don't believe me? Go and Google it. But of course, in the media, that's all they're going to show you is a stereotypical flying bear, eagle claw, hook nose. Yeah, I'm big bear, stand tall. Like, they're always going to show you that beating on the drum, stupid shit, right? And by the way, that does not belong to us. That culture does not belong to us. I know that there are powwows that have our people in it. There are tribes that participate in powwows that have our people in it. Yes, I do know that powwows originated with our people. But when you look at the history of the powwows, when it comes to that sitting in a circle, beating drums, screaming, sounding crazy, that didn't come from us. They actually borrowed that from the people who descend from the Asiatic folks who were brought over here to pretend to be us, right? That culture does not belong to us. If you go over to East Asia, like Mongolia and Siberia, they actually still do that shit to this day. Teepees don't belong to us. I know that they push that on us like that belongs to us, and you have some of us who are coming into our remembrance of who we are, and we associate ourselves with that type of stuff, right? Like, oh yeah, teepees, that belong to us. No, it didn't. It came over from Eurasia. They still practice that stuff even to this day. They still wear the same clothing. Like, I no cap. Some of these Asiatic mixed hybrid tribes that exist even to this day, especially on the West Coast, right? You look at the clothing and the tradition and the culture, that shit mirrors what you will find over in Eurasia. I kid you not. What are the name of the people? Sami? I think that's what they call it, the Sami people. That's one of the groups of people. There's various tribes, even over in Yakuts. Those people, they share a lot of similarities to them. Hell, I remember seeing a study saying that the language of the people in the northern parts of Alaska, Canada, is identical to the people over in Asia. And then even some of your tribes like I believe the modern day Hopi people, those tribes out west, the Hopi, can't remember their name. The Hopi, they're very famous tribe, man. That's over there. That they're, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that their languages are very similar to the Siberian languages and also similar to Mongolian language. It was funny. I read this one story where this guy, he was talking about his experience, right? So this was a guy who was Navajo. That's one of the other tribes too. There was this guy who was, I think he was Navajo, but he could have been the other tribe. What is the tribe that Sitting Bull is supposed to be from? I can't remember what the hell that tribe is, but he was from one of those tribes, right? And this guy, he was a part of a Christian organization that went out to do missionary work. Well, one of the locations that they went to for I think a month or two was to Mongolia, right? They were there to spread Christianity. And I believe he went and did this back in the 90s. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I read the article. But when he went over there, he could understand what the people were saying. Why? Now, he said the people, their English was very bad. Most of them didn't speak English, but he could still understand what they were saying. The reason being was because those people spoke Mongolian, and he said that language was very similar to the language they spoke in whatever tribe he was from. I can't remember what tribe he was from exactly. But yeah, he said that the language was damn near identical. Of course, he said there was words he couldn't understand, but he said that the structure of the language was identical to their language, but also there was words that were very similar, so much so that he could understand what they were saying or get a gist of what they were saying. And I'm like, that's amazing. There you go. There's a smoking gun right there, right? And what that tells me is that there hasn't been a whole lot of separation between those people, those two groups of people, that it had to be relatively recent that they separated. Right? It had at least probably been no more than a few hundred years that they've been separated. So it makes a lot of sense, And that's what this article that I seen probably about a month ago said about the people over in Alaska and Canada and their relations to the people over in Siberia, that they haven't been separated for that long because their languages are damn near identical, right? So yeah, yeah. I know I'd be going on tangents, right? But yeah, look at this guy, melanated, heavily melanated, look like a Negro. There's no way getting around that, right? So we can understand why the Olmec head looks the way it does. And like I said, forgive me for my speech because I am completely stuffed up. Sorry. Oh, my cousin. What's the shit? But anyways, let me go back over to this conversation real quick. But yeah, this is why the Olmec looked like that, right? It's not because he was some mongoloid dude, whatever. No, that's not what it was, right? That's not what it is, right? This is why the Olmec looked like that. Throw some brown skin on that. He's a Negro, just like his descendants. The Olmecs, like we know, were the Paleo Mayans. They were the ancestors of the Mayans. Now, if the Mayans look like this, because allegedly, correct me if I'm wrong, this mural, this painting, they say it was created by the Mayans in the 12th or 13th century. I'm not sure, right? So this was right before the colonizers arrived. They depicted themselves as Negroes, right? You can't get around that at all, right? So let me go back down to replies. Okay, here you go right here. So this is another one that I showed this guy right here. I said to him, let me see how it's looking on y'all side. Let me switch screens real quick. Still not the same, whatever. So as we see right here, it says, I said, here's a Mayan figurine. As you can see, Negroid features and a head wrap, like us Negroes, right? I still sometimes wear like a little scarf, stuff like that. My wife wears a hair wrap and scarf. My son wears a hair wrap and scarf when my wife does his hair to keep his hair looking nice, right? Look at this photo right here. Let me switch real quick. So I'm about to blow this thing up. Oops, you forget it. Just zoom in like this. I don't know how this looks. Let's see. Well, we're seeing what we really need to see, the important parts, right? So as you can see, let me try to zoom in a little bit more. Let me see if I can, because the clothing really don't matter. It's really about the face, right? What do we see here? What do we see here? For people who are probably saying like, oh, that Mayan in that mural, he wasn't wearing a scarf. He wasn't wearing a head wrap. See, if you were to show this figurine right here to somebody without giving any details, those people will be like, oh, that's an African. That's an African. No, that's a Mayan. That is a figurine of a Mayan. They went and excavated this out of a Mayan temple, right? It was buried with a Mayan noble. What does that look like? Looks like a so-called Negro to me. And for you Afrocentrics out there, y'all be like, oh, that's an African. For you Native and Hispanic and white and even melanated scoffers out there, y'all be like, oh, that's an African. That's a Mayan. Like I said, Negroid features, head wrap. Like that's a fucking head wrap. You can't get around that. That's a nigga right there. It's a nigga. We know who we are. We're waking up to who we are. And you guys, you can't tell us anymore who we are. We're waking up to who we are. We don't give a damn about y'all opinions, because that's really what it is. It's just y'all opinions. But like I said in my response to dude is that it shows in us. And not only does, you know, the artifacts, the figurines, the statues, the art created by these people, the Mayans and other indigenous groups in the Americas, not only do they validate us, our oral traditions validate us, what our grandparents and our elders used to tell us, like, oh yeah, we're Indian, we're from this tribe. That validates us. So does historical documentation of early explorers documenting what the inhabitants, the original inhabitants of the Americas looked like and what their culture was, how these people played what today would be called football, what today would be called basketball, what today would be called soccer, all these sports that black people excel in, right? And I know y'all say, oh, black people really don't play soccer. Well, look down Brazil, look in the Caribbean islands and look at those Negroes who excel at those sports, right? Like, come on, miss me with that. Miss me with that. Even baseball is rumored to come from an indigenous sport. We know hockey did. We know lacrosse did, right? Negroes were active over here. We love sports, right? Because we excel at it. We're good at it, right? But not only do the historical documents prove that, you know, back us up, but so does our cuisine. So does our food, soul food. Look at the food that we eat today. That's a staple in black households, you know, especially during the holidays. Of course, our diet is more Americanized now, but look at the Negro diet from the early 1900s. We ate a lot of beans. Black folks eat beans. We eat all type of beans. Why? Because that was something that we ate here. It was a crop here. We had so many different type of beans, right? I mean, look at red bean and rice. Red beans and rice. That's a famous Creole dish from Louisiana, Mississippi, those areas down there, right? I mean, just there's so many dishes that contain beans, right? Look at sweet potato. Black folks are known for sweet potatoes. Shout out to the African dude who made a video about a year ago saying that black people don't have a culture, y'all don't have food and all this stuff. Cap. We have culture. It's just been stolen. And you guys have assimilated it so much so that y'all forget that it's our culture, right? Y'all be like, oh, that's just American culture. Or, oh, that's just everybody's culture. No, the hell it wasn't. No, it doesn't. Y'all dudes cosplay us. And I'm not saying that this out of hatred, but it's just the truth. Y'all cosplay us and then y'all forget that where y'all got that culture from, right? Crazy. Just like Afrobeats, for example. Like, that's our, the Africans be like, that's our music. No, y'all took our music and then rebranded it. Y'all put like y'all little seasoning, a little bit of y'all seasoning on it and then said, oh yeah, no, this is ours. Hell, most of the food, some of the food that y'all eat ain't even really y'all's. Like fufu, for example. Y'all know what fufu is? It's corn. Corn is not from Africa, buddy. It's not from Africa. It was brought over there. Like y'all dishes don't even belong to y'all, right? Crazy work, man. Crazy work. It's literally cornmeal that they take and they oil it or whatever the hell they do to it and they eat it, right? But look at the so-called American Negroes diet. We're known for candy yams, right? We're known for sweet potato pies. Like, are you kidding me? We're known for that. We're known for these things. We're known for our corn dishes. We're known for our grits, right? What is grits? Grits is cornmeal. It is literally a type of cornmeal. We're known for it. This is why our faces were on a lot of what is known today as traditional American food. Why? Because quite a bit of traditional American food comes from the Americas, right? We're known for our corn products, right? So, I mean, we're known for our cornbread. We're known for our corn pancakes and things like that. We're known for our cornbread, cornbread, stuffing or cornbread dressing, whatever the hell you want to call it. We're known for these things. Why? Because this is what we were eating long before the people came, long before, the Europeans came over here. This is why they had us doing agriculture over here. Why? Because we knew the land. These people literally just enslaved us on our own land, in our own towns, our own cities that we had built. They occupied the lands and made us slaves in it. Hell, look at the story of Black Hawk. Shout out to Crimeo. There's another story he did on Black Hawk. Look how those people, those Europeans came into the towns that were already there and just took over. Black Hawk came back with his tribes like, hey, what the hell y'all doing in our houses? That's what they did. No cap. But like I said, I'm not saying that, there aren't Hispanic people out there with some American Indian ancestry. Like Kareem, for example, he's a good example, right? He got verifiable American Indian ancestors, right? Sorry, I'm trying to go back. And then also, I'm not one of those people who are ignorant to the fact that the Europeans who came over, the early Europeans who came over and colonized, I'm not ignorant to the fact that they were melanated. Not at all. Not at all. I know that they were Negroes, right? And so-called Hebrew Israelites should know that they were Negroes too, because these folks, they prop up King James all the time, say that he's black, Beethoven, all that stuff. But then when it comes to saying like, oh, well, they were the same people who came over and colonized, then they want to just forget that the nobility of Europe was black, right? Like, look at King Charles IV. Look at the painting of King Charles IV. You know what? I'm gonna actually pull that up. Give me a second. I'm gonna try to pull that up real quick. I'm probably gonna have to, let me pause real quick so I won't be wasting y'all time. Okay, so I'm back. So yeah, look at this photo right here. I couldn't find the one that I wanted to find. The one I wanted to find actually showed more than just this guy right here. Now, As you can see right here. Okay, so this is a picture taken of a panel from the painting in the Larco Museum in Lima, Peru, man. If I go to Peru, man, that's a bucket list place for me, man, to go to Peru. And not only go to Lima, to the Larco Museum in Peru, but also to go to the Andes. Oh, man, I want to go so bad. Oh man, gotta save my shekels or something. But anyways, it says a panel from the painting in the Larco Museum in Lima, Peru. This panel depicts the last Incan emperor, Atahualpa, I guess that's how his name is pronounced, and the subsequent first European emperor of the Inca, Holy Roman Emperor, King Charles. Well, they didn't put it. Maybe he wasn't a king. Well, I see the crown, and they just say he was a king. But anyways, I'm just gonna say Emperor Charles V, Carlos Quinto. Okay, so let's zoom in over here. Let's get a good zoom in. So as you can see, okay, so earlier I showed y'all these Negroes right here. People try to say it was paint. Then I showed you guys the Mayan mural. Now look at the painting by the Spaniards from Spain. Look how they depict the Inca. Melanated, looking like a Negro, right? Now look at King Charles V. Melanated. Melanated, right? Both of these men are melanated, right? So, I mean, what can y'all say? We're making this shit up? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the art, the artifacts, the statues, the figurines, you know, all these things are proving us right. Y'all know, y'all like to say, oh no, you're trying to Africanize everything. No, then why are these, I guess the scholars at these institutions, at these museums and all this, I guess they're Africanizing everything too, because they're the ones who's rolling out this shit and saying that it's legitimate. And no, I'm not throwing up 666. But they're saying that that's legitimate. They're saying that it's good to go. That's authentic, it's real. Are they the Afrocentrics too? See, y'all just don't, see, they lie to you guys. And then they tell y'all not to believe your own eyes. And then you guys don't believe your own eyes. And y'all go in here and y'all say that you guys are Afrocentrics. No, you guys are just ignorant. And quite often, willfully ignorant, right? But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. I mean, I can go through here and show you guys so many photos. Let me see. See, this is what I was talking about. This is from my book. Right, this right here. Let's see. I'm trying. Oh, wait. I don't even know if you guys can see this. Nope, y'all can't. Okay, let me close it. Open it back up. Still can't see it. Sheesh. All right, give me a second. I thought it was gonna work out better than that. I guess not. Right. So here's this one right here. This is from the book. This is from my book, right? That's not paint. Where the tan lines at, man? Where are the tan lines on these brothers? Where's the tan lines? Don't see it at all, right? And people will be like, man, they don't look completely Negro. What you talking about? There's Negroes with little lips, all that stuff. Have y'all do know of what is his name? He passed away recently. I cannot think. His name is right at the tip of my tongue. He played as Kunta Kinte. Can't remember the brother's name. John Amos. Look at that brother. Look at his lips. He had non-existent lips. He literally looked like he could be related to those guys, right? So don't hit me with that cap, right? Y'all just love the cap, right? But anyways, so here's that Mayan that I showed you guys earlier. Let me pull it up for you guys. Let me pull it up. Where is it? Wish this thing worked better, but it's not. But this is the cup right here, right? This is the full picture, right? That's not paint. That's not paint. That's a Negro right there, right? That's a Negro right there. Let me see. Let me find another picture from the museum, because I'm not one of those people. I don't hide from shit, right? I don't hide at all. Okay, here's another example right here of Indians with non-hooked noses, right? Because that's supposed to be the iconic look of the American Indian, right? Is the hooked noses. Well, look at this one right here, right? Non-hooked noses. His nose is kind of concave like that, right? But it's not a hooked nose. Wow, this guy right here look like he may have a hooked nose, right? Okay, let me trying to just find pictures, right? Okay. So here we go right here. Right. Sorry, y'all may hear my family in the background. I'm actually about to end this video soon because they just got home, so I'm trying to rush through this a little bit. Yeah, look at this right here. Look at this photo right here. Right, just to show you that we had different phenotypes, right? So you see these guys right here. Look, Hook, he has a big hook nose. His isn't really a hook nose, but it's different from his. You have this guy right here who has a pointy nose. You have this guy who doesn't have a pointy nose, right? Or a hook nose. This guy doesn't have a hook nose. This guy doesn't have a hook nose, right? Now, honestly, I feel like somebody had gotten to this mural and lightened these guys up. The reason why I say that, there's a reason why I say that, is because look at this guy right here. This guy has two different skin tones. He has two different skin tones. Look, you can see how they forgot to lighten this part up, right? I mean, they forgot to lighten it up right here. You can see it fading, getting lighter, and then his whole body is light, right? So I think some scholar got there and was like, you know what? We gotta at least make the ones who are sitting in the seat look light, and then they have dark slaves. Hilarious stuff, man. But anyways, these are Mayans. These are Mayans, right? And yeah, they are down there performing iconoclasm. I mean, these could have very well have lightened up on their own due to time, but I hardly doubt it, because look at the other ones, like how dark these guys are, right? Look how dark they are, right? And then this guy just happens to be fading in between, right? So yeah, somebody definitely went down there and performed iconoclasm. I mean, hell, even to this day, down there in Bonampak, they are defacing a lot of the art down there, because ever since we started to bring awareness of the Bonampak murals, people have started to go down there to deface the murals, man. It's a shame. Whole damn shame. But yeah, man, the American Indian, we came in all different phenotypes. Like I said before, I don't believe that we had light skin here. I don't think that we had pale skin here, in my opinion, right? I am going to pull up that quote for you guys real quick. I'm gonna try to pull it up for you guys. Fine. Because oftentimes when you try to cite this source, oftentimes they take you to places where they only have half of the fucking quote, right? They don't have everything else. So I'm gonna try to Okay, so I found the quote. Okay, let me share this on the screen. Let me see which one would fit best. Let me see this one. Okay, this one's better. There we go. There we go. Okay, so as you can see right here, this can be found at founders.archives.gov/documents/franklin/01-04-02-00. When I say O, I mean 00. So 0080. So again, it's founders.archives.gov/documents/franklin/01-04-02-008. So if you type that in there, you will find this exact document, right? This is by the government. Okay, this website is owned by the government, and at the bottom, of course, they have the citations where you can find this at if you want to actually look and find the actual document where this was mentioned. Right now, I guess I can read this to you up here. Let me make sure that you guys can even see this first. Oh, what's going on? Okay, let me go up just a little bit more. Okay. I'm just gonna start where it's important. So right here on 24, right? It says, which leads me to add one remark. This is Benjamin Franklin talking, by the way, that the number of purely white people, purely white people in the world is proportionately very small. All of Africa is black or tawny. What is that? What is black and tawny? Black and tawny is just, and we know that he's not talking about status when it comes to black or white. And the reason why I say that is because tawny is not a status. That's a skin color. That's a range of skin tones, right? So black and tawny, he's just saying that those are brown people, maybe people that are very dark brown and then people who are a lighter brown, right? But all of Africa is brown or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny, right? So brown skinned folks. And if you don't believe me, go and Google black Chinese people of the 1800s, 1900s. You will see heavily melanated Chinese folks. Folks, my skin tone, right? Okay, so I'm gonna read again. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia chiefly tawny. America exclusive of the newcomers, right? Of the newcomers. I believe the newcomers are some of the Europeans who came over, right? Wholly so, right? So America is wholly tawny and or black, swarthy, whatever you want to call it. Brown folks, right? Wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call swarthy complexion. What is swarthy? Go and look it up. Go and look it up. Swarthy is a dark brown. It's a brown complexion. But those people of those countries today, are they swarthy? Not at all. As are the Germans also. Okay. So yeah. That's what I wanted to share right there, right? So I don't believe that there were a whole bunch of pale-skinned folks or light-skinned folks from around the Americas. I know Creamia would disagree with me on that, but because there's documentation saying that some of the tribes were white and fair and all that stuff. Look, what you got to understand is that white and black denoted status, but right here we know just from context that he's talking about skin tone. And you got to understand, because back then they denote whiteness with purity and with beauty. So when they said that somebody was fair skinned, they were just saying that they had a beautiful complexion. Just like, with for example, your Caribbean folks, how they have like almost like a red tint to their skin because what you call sun-kissed, and people say, oh yeah, that's beautiful complexion, because they're up under the sun all the time and the oils are in their skin, and it makes their skin pop, right? So that's what you mean when you're saying, oh, fair complexion. How do we know that fair has to do with beauty and not skin color? Because in the media, they try to make you think that fair skin is light skin, but no, really it's beauty, because they will, back in the day, they will say, oh, that lady, she's fair, she's beautiful, right? So we know this, but we don't know this at the same time, because these people, they love to confuse us, right? So, when they were quoting some tribes being white, I think they were just talking about, how they deemed them white as a status thing rather than beauty, right? Also saying that they were fair and all this stuff, fair skin, while calling them white. They were just saying that they had beautiful skin. That's all, right? Because we see that the Europeans were either demonizing tribes, or they were saying that, oh yeah, they're good people, right? Christopher Columbus did that, and so did many other explorers. The tribes that helped them, they deemed them white, while the tribes that didn't help them, they deemed them black, and they deemed them savages, right? Same shit they call us today, savages, right? So yeah, I just wanted to make that point. But however, we're going back over here. So let me see how this looks real quick. Let's switch back to this one right there. So here's one that's shared right here. So I said, Google the Olmec statue called El Negro, right? Find a Hispanic from Central America who isn't part black, who looks like this, right? I know that is very zoomed in. Let me see how it looks on y'all screen. Let me switch it. Yeah. I want y'all to find me a mestizo. A mestizo, right? Find me a mestizo. I know I sound like an asshole right now, but find me a mestizo that looks like this. This brother has a high top fade with a widow's peak, right? We get widow's peak when we don't get our lineup, right? The brother, he needs a lineup. He needs a barber. But for people who want to say, oh yeah, this is an Asian dude, or this is a modern day Hispanic guy, find me a large group of mestizos that have these lips in combination with these nose, in combination with these cheeks, in combination with this hair. So much so that the people who found him called him El Negro, because he resembled a Negro, right? Just like all the Olmec heads do, right? Man. Okay, so I'm gonna read this to you guys. I think y'all can see it says, type is so frequent that no one can remain unaware of them. The Negroid element is the exception, but is well proven by the large Olmec stone monuments as well as the terracotta items, right? So terracotta, those little figurines and stuff, and they're therefore cannot be excluded from the pre-Columbian history of the Americas, right? It says, furthermore, it is precisely the Negro representation which often indicates personalities of high position. Okay, so they're saying that these Negro figurines are found in high positions, essentially, who can unhesitatingly be compared to the outstanding Negroes who served as models for great works of art in Egypt and in Nigeria. Miss me with that African shit. I'm willing to bet money this came from one of those African books that were probably made in the past 10 to 20 years, where people found out that black folks were already over here, and then they just try to Africanize everything. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those books come out recently where you will have people who are just learning this information, but they always try to associate it with Africa. And I think that a lot of times it's unintentional. Like they just don't know better, right? That we've always been here and that civilization started here in the Americas. I just think they don't know that stuff. But anyways, I think if you're going to write a book, you should be very familiar with this stuff. Very familiar, right? But yeah. But yeah, guys, anyways, that is all for today. You know, I honestly feel like we who are in the know of knowing who we are, we should keep several, if not a lot of these pictures handy on our phones, on our computers. So whenever people want to debate, we can easily show them this stuff and they can't refute it. They can't refute it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can sit there and you can kick and cry all you want and say that, you know, you so-called Negroes are not from the Americas, but when you pull up shit like that, they can't deny it. And once when you pull up stuff like this and they stick around, the only thing they're going to do is troll. And when they get to that point, cut them off. You already know you did your job because you beat them, and they cannot beat you. They cannot get around that. When you line up all those things, the artifacts, the figurines, historical documentation, genealogy, right? Because a lot of us are proving who we are through genealogy. Fuck the charlatan genetics and DNA studies and all that stuff. That's all bullshit. And then you line it up with the historical documentation, the genealogy, you know, our culture, our heritage, oral traditions, along with the artifacts that we're finding out there. You can't be beat. You cannot be beat. But anyways, guys, that is all for today. I will see you guys later. But until then, you know, those who do the Most High will. I pray that, you know, sorry, I just heard my son yell at me in the background. But yeah, I pray that the Most High bless all those who do his will. Peace out. Shalom. Peace.